ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. I think I'll just do a shorter one. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Vishnupadaya Vishnupasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Bhashyatma Sheshakarine. Hare Krishna. So we will discuss the pastime of Lord Narsimhadeva and how he appeared and what or who caused to appear. Of course, Prahlada Maharaj is considered to be one of the 12 Mahajans. So this is Yamaraj actually saying in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he actually lists, Swayambhu Narada Shambhu. So he actually basically lists, in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he lists 12 Mahajans and they know basically the religious principles. Because Dharma is very nuanced. It's not so easy to understand Dharma and how exactly to apply it in the time, place and circumstance. Because many times even Arjuna was actually facing the same condition, right? He said, what is that verse? 2nd chapter, what does it start? Shishyasteham Shadina. Karpanya dosho pahatas bhavava prashyami tam dharma sammura cheta. Dharma sammura cheta. He was confused about what is the dharma in this particular context, in this particular situation. Why? Because two dharmas were in conflict. When it's generally, when the choice has to be made between what is right and what's wrong, then it's easy to actually choose. And many times we don't even choose that. Right? Actually, people don't care in this Kali Yuga whether they are choosing something that is dharma or not, right? Whether they are choosing something that is right or not. And what to speak of actually, there's a conflict between two right. Then it becomes even more complex actually. And that is what Arjuna faced, because the conflict was not between what is right and what's wrong. The conflict was between his Kshatriya Dharma and then his Kula Dharma. So that was the conflict. And that's why he said, he tells Krishna, Dharma Sammura Cheta, I'm conflicted. Please tell me what is the right thing to do here. Conflicted between two dharmas actually. So, Dharma is not so easy to understand. The essence of all religious principles, the essence of all Vedic text is not so easy to understand. And so these are the 12 Mahajans, whose the Bhagavatam, especially in this particular section, Maharaj is discussing. What is that verse? And go back to that verse. Yeah, Swayambhu Narada Shambhu Kumaro Kapilo Manu Prahlado Janako Bhishma Balir Vaya Shakir Vaya. So you can read the translation. The translation is Lord Brahma, Bhagavan Narada, Lord Shiva, the 4 Kumaras, Lord Kapila, son of Devabhuti, Swayambhu Manu, Prahlada Maharaj, Janak Maharaj, grandfather Bhishma, Bali Maharaj, Sukadeva Goswami. I myself know the real religious principles. So, it's not so easy to understand the religious principles, but by understanding the story of these Mahajans, by understanding the instructions from these Mahajans, then we can understand what is the essence of religious principles, what is the essence of all Dharma, what is the essence of all the scriptures. So that is the story of Prahlada Maharaj. And whose cause actually Lord Narsimhadeva appeared. Of course, the story starts with I'm going to go over quickly. The story starts with Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu were brothers, and Hiranyaksha, of course, was killed by Lord Varaha. And then from that time on, Hiranyakashipu was actually, he was sworn enemy of Lord Vishnu. He actually wanted to find Lord Vishnu, and he actually wanted to kill Lord Vishnu. That was his prime goal of life. And of course, then he actually performed severe. In fact, Hiranyakashipu means, Hiranya means what in Sanskrit? Gold. Hiranya means gold. How many of you have gold? Anyway, of course, having gold is not a problem, but being so very attached, very, very attached to gold is a problem. Excess, having that as a, the primary essence of our life, or the center of our life, that's a problem. And Kashipu means what?
Bed.
Yeah, Kashipu means bed. That represents what? Of course, gold represents material opulence, and the bed represents enjoyment, material comfort, basically. Enjoyment and material comfort. So Hiranyakashipu means one who actually is seeking after material opulence, ultimately leading to material dominance and material comfort or material enjoyment or happiness. So, as his name represents, that's what he took as the goal of his life, and he performed severe austerities. Severe austerities means we cannot even imagine the kind of austerities he performed. He performed such severe austerities that Lord Brahma was forced to appear before him. He performed such severe austerities that ant hill grew around his body, and then many parts of his body was actually eaten by the ants and other insects. But still he was continuing to performing austerities. Of course, austerity itself is one of the legs of Dharma. There are 4 legs of Dharma. Dharma is represented as a bull. What are the 4 legs of Dharma? Austerity, cleanliness, truthfulness, and compassion, mercy. So these are the 4 legs of Dharma. So austerity in itself is good, but then we have to understand what is the goal behind that austerity. Krishna discusses in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita that austerity can also be, just because somebody does austerity doesn't mean it's good. Austerity itself can be classified into the 3 modes. Austerity in the mode of goodness, austerity in the mode of passion, and austerity in the mode of ignorance. So when austerity is performed in the mode of passion and ignorance with the wrong goal, then the austerity itself becomes shackles in one sense. It entangles us more to this material world. So of course, Hiranyakashipu was performing austerity for a wrong goal. Why was he performing austerity? We also perform austerities, right? What kind of austerities do we perform? And why do we perform austerities? What is our goal in performing austerity? Okay, name some austerities you perform in your life. Late night, okay. Maybe not a good example. No, actually that's true, because you have to maintain, right? So the Chaitanya Prabhu is saying that late night working is an austerity. Actually working itself is a kind of an austerity. And then we finish the work on time, under so much of pressure and deadlines and Ugra Karma itself in the Kali Yuga. That itself is austerity, but that austerity, devotees are performing those austerities because ultimately what is the goal in performing those austerities? He's performing all those austerities so that he can conduct the Thursday programs. He can pay the mortgage. They can have a decent living, simple living. It's a very simple life. The whole family is having a simple life, but ultimately the goal is to serve Krishna. Serve Krishna to different means, actually. Serve Krishna by, maybe giving some in charity, by inviting everybody to, kirtans and katha at home, and then by cooking prasadam and, giving everybody prasadam. All these things also needs capital. But ultimately our austerity should be done to actually serve and please Krishna. Then that austerity becomes very successful. That is the success of that austerity. If the austerity is directed towards serving and pleasing Krishna. But then the austerity can also be directed towards other goals other than serving and pleasing Krishna. And that's what Hiranyakashipu was running after material goals. He was not running after spiritual goals, and he was using austerity to basically forward to progress on the material goals. Material goals of completely dominating everyone, complete dominance, complete control, and basically becoming the supreme. He wanted to be the supreme. He actually wanted to be Vishnu and take the place of God. He wanted to be God. He wanted to become God, and that so he uses austerity to basically towards some material goals. Of course, devotees also perform austerities. Like for example, yesterday, Ekadashi. And as Ekadashi, the devotees fast on Ekadashi. And yesterday, how many of you fasted for Narsimha Chaturdashi? Ishan Prabhu. Yeah, some of us did. Actually, we, generally the fasting for Narsimha Chaturdashi is till dusk, because that's when Lord Narsimhadeva appeared. The fasting for Janmashtami is till when? Midnight. Krishna really noticed, okay, how much are you devoted? So the fasting, but that is austerity. That is austerity we are performing. Of course, austerity we are performing not just to go and do some other activity, but we minimize on Ekadashis and all these holy days. We minimize the needs of the body and the mind, and then what do we engage in? We engage in Shravanam and Kirtanam. We engage, absorb our mind in hearing and chanting about the glories of the Lord. We absorb our mind meditating on the pastimes of the Lord. So that is why these holy days are there. So devotees perform austerities, but to attain a spiritual goal. But of course, then Hiranyakashipu was performing this austerity so much so that the fire was emanating from his head. And then it was spreading everywhere, and it's heating up all the planets. And then all the rivers and oceans were getting agitated. And then finally, all the demigods, the sages, everybody goes to Brahma and then says, please save us, this demon is creating, havoc by doing so much austerity. Then Lord Brahma was forced to appear. Then he appears and he says, my dear child, what do you want? Why are you performing so much, severe tapasya? I'm pleased with your severe tapasya, but unfortunately, Lord Brahma cannot do much because he is also bound to give the results. That's why demons actually worship either Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva, because they are bound to actually give the results of those austerities. But Lord Vishnu is not. That's why they don't worship Lord Vishnu. So if somebody worships Lord Vishnu, what does the Lord do? The Lord, purifies our heart. And then if he thinks the desire needs to be fulfilled, then he actually fulfills those desires. So because he is not bound like the other demigods to basically award the results for the sacrifice, the Lord Vishnu doesn't have to give. So Lord Vishnu, the way he does it is, he purifies our heart of all the material desires, and then he gives, like how he did in the sake of Dhruva Maharaj. He wanted a kingdom greater than his great-grandfather, which is Lord Brahma. He wanted a kingdom greater than his Lord Brahma, the kingdom of Lord Brahma, which is the whole material universe. But then the Lord gave him. But before giving him, what did he do? He actually purified the desires. He basically, by the time, the Lord appeared before him, Dhruva Maharaj was thinking, what did I ask for? I should have asked for, the darshan of the Lord instead of seeking some material kingdom. Anyway, so then what happens is, so he performs austerity to basically please Lord Brahma. Then Lord Brahma appears and then he gives basically all the benedictions he asks for. So what are the benedictions he is asking for? What are the benedictions? Almost he wanted to become immortal, but he realized that Lord Brahma himself is not immortal. So then he actually puts all the different conditions to basically make sure that all different kinds of insurance, to make sure that he remains immortal. Anybody remember what are the things he asked for?
Cannot be killed during day or night.
Yeah, it cannot be killed during day or night.
Cannot be maybe in house or outside.
Yeah, cannot be killed within the house or outside.
Cannot be killed by an animal or a human.
Yeah, cannot be killed by animal or a human, cannot be killed by any weapons, cannot be killed by any of the living entities created by Lord Brahma. So he has so many kinds of boon, thinking that now he has become immortal, and then he strikes terror everywhere. He basically terrorizes the whole universe. He basically stops, he stops the performance of sacrifices. He basically, he bothers, all the devotees of the Lord. He arrests all the devatas, throws them out of the job, lay off in the heavenly planets. and so he does all these things, and then he controls the whole nature. He dominates just everything. He just dominates everything, so much so that whenever he wants to eat some fruits, or whenever he thinks that some season should appear, then it will appear actually, and then the trees will produce the fruits that he wants out of season. Right? I mean, we are also trying to do that, right? So many times now, mangoes actually are. Previously, it used to be mangoes only grow during the summer season, right? Now, of course, because of whatever genetic modification and export and import and everything, now mangoes are available throughout the year. So we can see we are modeling after who, right? We all, even though we may not be as powerful as Hiranyakashipu, but we have those tiny tendencies to dominate, to exploit, to lord it over the material nature, and that's what Hiranyakashipu actually, because of the ahankar or the excessive the ego that he had to control and dominate everyone, and because he had that, he was because of the tapasya, he was able to do all these things. And then of course the devatas and headed by Lord Brahma, they all went to the Lord, and then they basically asked the Lord, so much of havoc is going on, please save us. And then at that time, the Lord tells them, don't worry, when my great devotee Prahlada is being harassed by Hiranyakashipu, at that time I'll appear, and then I'll destroy this human. So the Lord actually gives them the promise. So then the story moves forward, and then Prahlada Maharaj is born. He's a small boy, and then he's sent to Sundarananda. He's sent to the challenger school in Hiranyakashipu's kingdom. Well, no offense to challenger. Where material, anyway, I shouldn't take names, sorry. But he's sent to a school where only material education is being taken place, right? Only, of course, the schools at that time was a little bit better. At least they thought, the 4 principles of human goal, which is the dharma, artha, kama, moksha. They thought about all those things as well. But here, of course, nowadays, only material education being taught, and no mention of, you cannot mention anything about spirituality. And basically, that is what was going on in Hiranyakashipu's kingdom as well. So Santa and Amarka, who were the sons of Shukracharya, they were basically teaching all these material education, basically politics, and then, everything needed to basically rule over the entire universe. So basically, because they had to prepare, because he is the higher of Hiranyakashipu, so they had to prepare him to become the next king or the prince, right? So then one day what happens is, then Prahlada comes home, and then Hiranyakashipu basically very lovingly, affectionately asks him, takes him on his lap, and then very affectionately asks him, please tell me, what is the best thing that you have learned? Please tell me what is the best thing he has learned. Now he'll get the first shock of his life. So, of course, this time he was not so much disturbed. So this is what Prahlada Maharaj replies. You can actually go to Tat Sadhu Manye. We can recite the verse together. Yeah, from the 5th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is a summary. So we can read this. Shri Prahlada Vacha.
Shri Prahlada Vacha.
Tat Sadhu Manye Suravarya Dehinam.
Tat Sadhu Manye Suravarya Dehinam.
Sada Samudvigna Dhiyam Asatgraha.
Sada Samudvigna Dhiyam Asatgraha.
Hitvatmapatam Grihamanda Kupam.
Atmapatam Griyamandakupam
Vanam gato yadharimashrayeta.
Vanam gato yadharimashrayeta.
Can somebody read the translation? Is there another mic? No? Can somebody read the translation? Anyone? Can be a little loud. Yeah.
Prahlada Maharaj replied, O best of the Asuras, king of the demons, as far as I have learned from my spiritual master, any person who has accepted a temporary body and temporary household life is certainly embarrassed by anxiety because of having fallen in a dark well where there is no water but only suffering. One should give up this position and go to the forest, Vana. More clearly, one should go to Vrindavan, where only Krishna consciousness is prevalent, and should thus take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yeah. So he's telling his father, he's addressing his father, O best of the demons, and then he's making few statements here. So what is he telling his father? Of course, father is completely absorbed in materialistic life. And then basically what in essence, what Prahlada Maharaj is telling is, please give up your materialistic life and go to forest. Of course, there are the 4 ashramas, right? Anybody know what are the 4 ashramas of human, that we follow, are part of the Varnashram Dharma? What are the 4 ashramas? Yeah, Brahmachari. No, Mataji is one step ahead actually. So Brahmachari, then followed by Vanaprastha and Sannyas. So actually, yeah. So basically, what Prahlada Maharaj is saying to Hiranyakashipu is, you're just too materialistic. Of course, we follow these ashramas. We start from the student life and then get married, we get into married life and then fulfill our responsibilities there. But then the idea is to actually move forward into the next ashrama, not get stuck and become attached. So there is a difference. So Prabhupada uses 2 statements. So Grihastha ashrama is also an ashram. But Grihastha ashram, but then there is another term which is called as Grihamedi. So what is the difference between Grihastha ashram and Grihamedi? Grihamedi means one whose life is centered around materialistic enjoyment. But Grihastha means one whose life is centered around Krishna consciousness, one whose life is centered around cultivating spirituality, where the husband and wife actually help each other to cultivate spirituality, to basically put Krishna in the center. That is Grihastha ashram. So Grihastha ashram means where spirituality is at the center of their lives. Like how we see, as an example, like how the deities and the deities are being worshipped and food bhoga is offered to the deities. So Krishna is the center of Prabhu and Mataji's life. So then that becomes actually Grihastha ashram. Grihamedi means where sense enjoyment, materialism, materialistic life, that becomes actually the center of Grihamedi. So, and Grihamedi, the symptom of Grihamedi is basically there is I, me and mine. Right? What we are most attached to in this world? What are we most attached to in this world? What is it? Okay, body, and then who else? I, yeah. So the most we are attached to in this world is our own body. And all the other attachments actually come from that extension of that attachment only. Right? I am attached to, my wife, my family. I am not attached to anybody in the world who is not connected with this body. Because ultimately the attachment comes from the body and then extends to all the relatives, family members and everything. And anything that's attached to the body, connected to the body. Like for example, a house or car or wherever the consciousness is invested actually, materially. So, Hiranyakashipu was exhibiting this, and Grihamedi also exhibits this, which is the materialistic consciousness of I, me and mine. And because Hiranyakashipu was exhibiting this and he showed no signs of, taking any spiritual path or no interest in taking any spirituality or spiritual path, what does Prahlada Maharaj says here? He says you should take to, because Vanaprastha generally in the olden days, they actually go to the forest. Because then, basically their responsibilities are fulfilled now they have to basically increase their time and devote more time to spirituality. That's why Vanaprastha, nowadays retired life means they get more into, enjoyment, sense enjoyment or materialistic enjoyment. But then real meaning of Vanaprastha or retired life means you actually increase our absorption, increase our engagement in spiritual practices and services actually. That is the meaning of being in Vanaprastha. So here, Prahlada Maharaj is telling that, you're becoming more and more materialistic being in the, in this ashram. So what you should do is you should actually take to Vanaprastha. And that's why you should go to the forest. And of course, Prabhupada adds, going to the forest means going to a holy place like Vrindavan. In the modern context, actually nobody is, trained to do all these things. But what actually, in essence, in spirit, what it means is that we have to become more and more, as we grow older, our lifespan, is getting shorter and shorter. As Ayur Hariti Vaipumsha, the Bhagavatam verse says, as the rising and the setting of the sun, everybody's duration of life has decreased, except for the person who's completely, engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. Except the person who's actually engaged, who's practicing spirituality. Because why? Such a person is actually, he is basically, the death. Of course, everybody has to die, but for a person who's on the path of Krishna consciousness or spirituality, the gates of the spiritual kingdom, they are open. So death for a materialist means it's the end of a lot of things. It's a very anguishing experience for a materialist to go through death, and it's the end of the journey. Actually, it's a very anguishing experience. It's a very anxiety-ridden experience. But for a transcendentalist who self-realized, it's actually a doorway to spiritual life. The same death actually becomes a doorway to spiritual life. So here Prahlada Maharaj is telling Hiranyakashipu, hey, you're getting too materialistic, forget about all these things, just go to Vrindavan or a holy place and then start practicing spirituality. So this is the essence of this particular instruction. And then Hiranyakashipu, of course, he doesn't take it so seriously. He laughs. He thinks, oh, this is a small boy, Maybe one of my enemy has actually corrupted his mind. Some of the Brahmanas, maybe they were enemies. My, agents of Lord Vishnu, they have corrupted this boy's mind. So then he again sends him back. He tells Sundarananda, please take him back and retrain him properly. Teach him about, the ashuric way of life and teach him all the material subject matter. So Sundarananda actually take him back. And then they are wondering, where did he learn all these things from? We are only teaching in this, there is nobody else. So then they basically ask Prahlada Maharaj, where did you learn all these things from? Then Prahlada Maharaj doesn't give any direct answer. He just says that, my mind is always fixed on Vishnu. I'm not able to think anybody else other than Vishnu. And then he starts glorifying devotional service. And then he says, you should not teach all these things. You should not teach, the difference between how to be politically, not teach politics and say that these people are your enemies, these people are your friends. You should actually see everybody, as a part and parcel of Lord Vishnu. So basically, Prahlada Maharaj is in a different state of consciousness. He's a Uttama Adhikari. It's such a strong faith in the Lord that he is actually, he is giving all these different messages to Sundarananda, and then they get pretty upset hearing all these things. Then they decide, okay, let's actually teach him the 4 goals of human life, which is Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. And then again they start teaching him all these things. And then again, one day, the boy comes home, and then Hiranyakashipu, she takes him on a lap, and then he asks him, okay, what did you learn? What is the best thing you learned in the school? And then let's go to this verse. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. So he's going to get, this time he's going to really get a shock. First time he thought, okay, this is a small boy is blabbering. But then when he saw that he's not changing, then he's basically gets very disturbed and very angry actually. So this is what Prahlada Maharaj tells him. Let's read this verse. So this is the 9 process of devotional service. So this is all coming from Prahlada Maharaj. It's a very famous verse. Many of you would have heard this. The 9 ways of devotional service, 9 process of devotional service, 9 process of bhakti. Prabhu, you want to recite?
Shri Prahlada Vacha
Shri Prahlada Vacha
Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu
Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu
Smaranam Padasevanam
Smaranam Padasevanam
Archanam Vandanam Dasyam
Archanam Vandanam Dasyam
Sakhyam Atmanivedanam
Sakyam Atmanivedanam
Iti Pumsarpitah Vishnu
Iti Pumsarpitah Vishnu
Bhaktischennava Lakshana
Bhaktischennava Lakshana
Kriyeta Bhagatyadha
Kriya Bhavati Yatha
Tanmanye Dhitamuttamam
Tanmanye Pramuttamam.
Read the translation. Please speak few words on the verse.
Translation. Prahlada Maharaj said, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming his servant, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him. In other words, serving him with the body, mind and words. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. One who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge. This is a beautiful verse. Of all the purports that Srila Prabhupada has written in Bhagavatam, this has the biggest purport of Srimad Bhagavatam. It goes pages after pages.
So he has plans to read the whole purport.
Every process has been nicely explained by Srila Prabhupada, and our spiritual life starts with hearing and chanting. We hear from a Vaishnava, and as we always say, bhakti comes from bhakti. We hear from the Vaishnava and then we practice what Vaishnava has taught. And Srila Prabhupada has taught us to chant the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is the Yoga Dharma of this Kali Yuga. And we should take this holy name very seriously, because from, it's mentioned, transcendental holy name, Nama, Rupa, Guna and Adi, paraphernalia and pastimes. All the leelas of the Lord gets manifested when we have taken the shelter of the holy names of the Lord. And next is remembering. We should always try to remember Krishna. Yena tena prakarena. Somehow or the other, we should find excuse in remembering Krishna, because otherwise, if we don't remember Krishna, we will remember Maya. It's very simple. Or Maya will remember us. So we should try to remember Krishna and serve the lotus feet of the Lord. That means we can serve the Vaishnavas, because when we serve the Vaishnavas are via medium towards Krishna. So when we serve the Vaishnavas, Krishna becomes happy. And like this, there are all the different processes, and one of the best processes is Atma Nivedana, which is surrendering completely ourselves at the lotus feet of the Lord. Bali Maharaj did it. Shukracharya said, don't do it. But Bali Maharaj gave up his own guru because it was against the pure devotional service. And Bali Maharaj said, whatever Krishna you want, 3 steps, I'll do 3 steps. Obviously it is very hard, but when a person is completely attached to someone higher, then we don't do the calculations. This is Bali Maharaj.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Prabhu. And I'll just hold it. So, yeah, as Chitra Chaitanya Prabhu was beautifully saying, these are the 9 processes of devotional service. And each of them have an example of a devotee who perfected by just following one of the processes. If you are not able to follow all the process, at least, we can begin with Shravanam and Kirtanam, which is hearing and chanting. If you just begin with that hearing and chanting, and if you are able to, get absorbed in hearing and chanting, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, as much as we can, as much time as we can invest, just begin with the process of hearing and chanting, then all perfections will come about. Even if actually we do one of these processes fully, with complete dedication, then we'll be able to attain all perfection. So for Shravanam, who actually perfected his life just by the process of hearing? Can you name an example? Parikshit Maharaj. So 100 points to Mataji.
We started.
And then who perfected their life just by Kirtana? Anybody else other than Mataji? Who? What example? Can you give an example for 100 points? Sukadeva Goswami. So let's give 100 points to Sattat Prabhu. So Sukadeva Goswami, just by reciting Bhagavatam, he attained all perfection. And Parikshit Maharaj, just by hearing Bhagavatam, he attained all perfection. And then the next one is what? Smaranam, Vishnu Smaranam. Who attained perfection by just remembering the Lord all the time? Prahlada Maharaj, yes. So it's Prahlada Maharaj who actually attained all perfection just by remembering the Lord. In fact, I mean, it's amazing how much his faith, of course, through all the adversities, he was just completely not disturbed at all. That is the level of, so he's a Uttamadhikari, he's a perfected devotee. And the Acharyas explain how he is actually a combination of Nitya Siddha and Sadhana Siddha. He is a Siddha, he is a perfected being. And you can see how he behaved actually. It's unimaginable how he behaved. That is his faith that the Supreme Lord will protect him. In fact, one of the lectures I was hearing that when Prahlada Maharaj was actually, when he was actually thrown in a snake pit, right? Later, there was a discussion, and then he was asked, how come you were never afraid? Right? How come you were never afraid? You went through so many adversities, so many difficult circumstances. How you didn't show any fear, or not show any fear? How did you not feel any fear? So that was because he was actually the Uttamadhikari platform, where everything he saw as in relationship with Krishna. Everything he saw as manifestation of Krishna's energy. Everything he saw in connection with Krishna. Because he was on that platform, he never felt any fear. And so how did he see, when he was thrown in a snake pit, how did he see the snakes? Yeah, you're right. He saw the snakes as, yes, they are all related to my Lord, because the Lord lies on the Seshnag or the bed of snake. So he was not afraid of that. He saw everything connected to he only remembered the Lord, right? That is called as Uddipana. Uddipana means anything you see, if your heart is filled with love for a person, right? Anything you see that's connected to the person, that reminds you of that particular person, right? Like for example, Achyuta Chaitanya Prabhu sees the little shoes of Kishori, or Manjari Mataji sees, the small clothes. She's folding the clothes, she's seeing the clothes of Kishori. Then what it reminds her of? It reminds her of Kishori. So this is called as Uddipana. So, and why that Uddipana occurs? Because that person is actually in love. Of course, love is a very high thing. We cannot equate love to what is shown in Bollywood and Hollywood. That is called as lust. But there is a difference between love and lust. So, the Prabhupada said that the purest, the closest to pure divine love, that we can experience in this material world is between a mother and a child. Because the mother serves the child selflessly without no expectations. That is actually close to what resembles. It resembles somewhat to some degree pure divine love. So Prahlada Maharaj, when one is absorbed in love of the Supreme Lord, then everything actually he sees or comes across with reminds him of the Supreme Lord. And that's what Prahlada Maharaj's state of consciousness. So when he saw the snakes, he didn't get afraid. I mean, we will get afraid, right? Because we are not Krishna conscious, we are not God conscious, we haven't developed the love for Godhead yet. So we cannot see everything connected with Krishna. We see everything in terms of duality. What is good for me, what is bad for me, from our own conditioning, from the own conditioned mind. That is our state of consciousness, because we have not evolved so much spiritually. But then Prahlada Maharaj is so evolved spiritually that whatever he saw, he actually reminded him of Krishna. So poison, how did he remind him of Krishna? Any guess? What is that? Yeah, it reminded him of Krishna. That's correct, Ishwari. That's correct. So he thought, because he remembered the Samudra Manthan. He remembered the Samudra Manthan, out of which the poison came. And also Lakshmi Devi also came. Right? So then he thought, okay, the poison is actually related to my mother, Divine Mother. So he thought, Kalakutta or poison as his mama. So the poison, of course, all the poison that we see in this world actually it originates from the Kalakutta poison only. Because Lord Shiva drank most of it, but then few drops fell. And then all the scorpions and the snakes fed on that, and then they got the poison from that actually. So he saw everything as connected with the Supreme Lord and his devotees. And then he saw the fire. Of course, he was also thrown into the fire. How did he see the fire? He saw the fire as mouth of Lord Vishnu. Because Yajna by Vishnu, all the yajna that we perform actually is offered. Whatever offering we give to the fire, we are actually giving to Lord Vishnu, because he is the master of all yajna by Vishnu. So like that, Prahlada Maharaj had this kind of consciousness, which is called as Krishna consciousness, because of the faith that he had. And so he is given as the example. So this is how he remembered. Of course, this kind of remembrance cannot be mechanically done. Of course, we can do consciously. Okay, they say, right, if you're after every 2 hours or 1 hour, you take set a reminder for yourself. Take a pause, do some deep breathing, pause and reflect. All these mindfulness people do, right? So we can do something like that also. Okay, I have to consciously try to remember Krishna. But then for Prahlada Maharaj, it was spontaneous, because he was at that level of faith. So Prahlada Maharaj attained all perfection by just remembering the Lord. In fact, it was the other way, because he had that love, attachment to Krishna, to Lord Vishnu. He was able to remember the Lord all the time. So that's what we are trying to also cultivate in our own heart by the practice of these 9 process of devotional service, especially Shravanam and Kirtanam. We are actually trying to revive or cultivate that attachment to Lord Vishnu or Krishna. And then the 4th one is, who attained perfection by worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord? Yes, 100 points too. But he is a Bhakti Shastri, so it's not counted. So it's actually Lakshmi Devi. You can always see how Lakshmi Devi is worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord. She attained perfection by worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord. And then the next one is Archana. Right? Who attained perfection by performing, worshipping the deity of the Lord, by performing Archana. Anyway, you would probably Prithu Maharaj. So Prithu Maharaj attained perfection. He's one of the Shakti Avatar. He's mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he attained perfection by the process of Archana. And then any example, Vandanam. Vandanam means what? Offering prayers. So when we go in front of the deity, we offer prayers, right? Heartfelt prayers to the Lord. That is actually also devotional service to the Lord. But many times our prayers are not very, high standard, right? Generally we do a transactional prayer, right? Krishna, give me $1 million, I'll put $100 in your hundi. That's a very transactional thing. That's not a heartfelt prayer. So the person who actually perfected his life, prayers also has a format actually. Prayer also has a format. We start with glorifying the Lord. It's not transactional. Even if we are asking help from the Lord, of course it's natural that we ask help from the Lord. Because children, when they are in trouble, what they do? They immediately go to their parents, mother or father, and then ask them for help. So Vandanam, a Akrura attained perfection by Vandanam. He has beautiful set of prayers in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then rendering service, who attained perfection? This is easy. By service, dasya, by being a servant, this personality attained all perfection. Hanumanji. So you can see how he, just by completely being devoted and serving Lord Ram, he attained all perfection. And then friendship, Sakyam, Arjuna. Nice. And then Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. Atmanivedanam, full surrender. Complete surrender were exhibited by Bali Maharaj in the Bhagavatam. It's explained the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he attained perfection by completely surrendering everything to the Lord. And completely surrendering everything to the Lord means, what is the most difficult thing to surrender? The ego. Ahankar. That is the most difficult thing to surrender. You can, I can surrender other things. But what is very, very difficult is the ego. So Bali Maharaj surrendered his ego by offering his own head. That's why when we go and offer obeisances to the Lord, when we go to the temple, we offer obeisances, right? And when we bow our head before the Lord, what are we telling? We are telling, I'm also surrendering my ego. Because ego is right here, right? In Tamil they say Talaganam. Talaganam, one who is too egoistic means they have a very heavy head. Talaganam. Tala means head, Gana means very heavy. So, such a person has a very heavy, one who is egoistic like Hiranyakashipu, he had such a egoistic nature. He has a very heavy head and heart. And they don't like to bow down to anybody. Right? Hiranyakashipu, what to speak of bowing down? He would just raise his eyebrows and all the demigods, would just tremble. So, but bowing down means, yes, Krishna, you are the Supreme Master, I am your eternal servant. We are actually telling that to Krishna. And then I am your humble servant. I am your humble servant. That's what we are telling Krishna by bowing down. So Bali Maharaj offered his head to Krishna. Please keep your foot on my head. And then he offered everything. Atmanivedanam in that manner. Anyway, there is the story actually continues. Many verses are there. I'll just complete in few more minutes. Prabhu is eagerly waiting to take quiz for all of you and see who has learned what, who has heard the class. And depending on the score, I think Prahlada will be according like. He didn't tell you that actually. Or else many of you would have not come for today's class. No, I'm just joking. He's a very kind teacher actually. He's not very strict actually. He's not like Sundarananda. Anyway, so this is the verse. Prahlada Maharaj is just telling, he is completely fearless. It's unbelievable, right? Would you be able to go and tell this to your CEO? What is what have you learned, Arun Prabhu? What is the name of Tim Cook, right? Fairness. Sorry, what was that? Okay, new person. So he comes and asks you, what have you learned, in 5 years of your experience at Apple? And then Arun Prabhu can say, Shravanam Kirtana. What? Let's call your manager. No, I'm just giving an example. But Prahlada Maharaj, it's not that he doesn't know what is the mentality of Hiranyakashipu, but he's so fearless. He's so fearless actually. I wouldn't do. If I had a father like Hiranyakashipu and then I know what exactly he wants, probably I would stay silent, at the most. But I wouldn't go and tell him, Shravanam Kirtana. But Prahlada Maharaj, you can see how fearless it is. It's not lack of knowledge or awareness, he's in full, But that is the faith that he carried. Of course, we cannot imitate such personality. We cannot imitate such personality, at least we can try to aspire to follow in the footsteps of such great personality. That's why he is Mahajan, and that's why his story is in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. Anyway, and of course, Prahlada Maharaj himself says, I'll skip a few things here, then there's a whole discussion, Prahlada Maharaj gives him more and more advice about taking to Krishna consciousness, and Hiranyakashipu becomes so angry. This time he gets so angry, he gets so mad that he actually orders his servants to basically kill Prahlada Maharaj. And that is the anger, that's how much angry he gets. Anybody disregards his rule, his instructions, then he is ready to even kill. That's how hard-hearted he was. Because of the austerity for materialistic goals, he basically decided to kill Prahlada Maharaj, his own son. And then he tries to kill him in so many possible ways, but Prahlada Maharaj is not killed. And then he gets even more disturbed. He gets like, I'm controlling the whole world. Everybody, all the great demigods, except for Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu. Everybody is under the, tip of my fingers. I order them, they execute everything, but I am not able to control this 5-year-old boy. So he becomes so frustrated. He becomes so unhappy and filled with anxiety. How this 5-year-old boy, I'm not able to do anything for him, and he's so powerless. Actually, that is the irony, right? He's so powerless. Hiranyakashipu thinks he's so powerful, but he's not able to do anything to Prahlada Maharaj. And we'll stop with this verse, and then again Chandramarka comes, and then they convince him, don't worry, we'll again teach him. We'll teach him how to householder life, how to become a good grihastha. Maybe that will change his mind. And then they again go, they try to teach him all, the material subject matters. And then the friends, the demon, his friends, small boy friends, Prahlada Maharaj asks him, where did you learn all these things from? And how are you able to, remain so steady? In your devotional practice, where did you get all this knowledge from? And so they inquire about devotional service, and then Prahlada Maharaj actually, gives this beautiful verse, where he says that the right utility of human life is to human life is very rare. It says, Kaumara machare pragyo dharman bhagavata niha durlabam manasham janma thadapi adhruvam arthatam. He says, yes, human form of life is rarely achieved. Even though it's temporary, human form of life is rarely achieved. So he says, Kaumaram achare pragyo, that one should actually devote one's life to cultivating devotional service to the Supreme Person. Dharman Bhagavatan Hiyaha. To the Supreme Personality of God. We'll just read the translation and we'll conclude there. Anybody wants to read the translation? Yes, Romba, we can be loud.
Prahlada Maharaj said, one who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of body from the very beginning of life. In other words, from the tender age of childhood to practice the activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. The human body is most rarely achieved and although temporary like other bodies. It is meaningful because in human life, one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection.
Right. So human body is very rarely achieved. So the best use of the human body is to engage in the devotional service to the Supreme Lord. And then one can attain all perfection from this. So this is what he is telling to all his friends in the school. And of course he also tells them how he actually got all this knowledge, how he is so devoted to Lord Vishnu. Then he tells the story of how he heard Bhagavad Dharma from Srila Narada Muni. When he was in the womb of his mother, he heard about the Bhagavad Dharma from Srila Narada Muni, and that's how he's become such a wonderful devotee of the Lord. Because of the association of with Narada Muni, he's attained the perfect faith and a devotion to Lord Vishnu. That's what he tells to his friends in the school. And then of course the story continues for many more chapters. So you can go and read the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. If you don't have Srimad Bhagavatam, please take Srimad Bhagavatam. We have this program called the where we, Bhadra Purnima, where we have this whole engagement for the next few months, where we are distributing Srimad Bhagavatam. So if you don't have one, please take and read the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, many chapters. This whole story is covered in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So with that, I will hand it over to Mr. Chaitanya Prabhu, who will take over for the next phase of the program. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you. Very nice class on 7th canto.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
We'll quickly do a quiz now. We are doing from 14th chapter up